You're watching BreakThru News.
I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein, and you're watching BreakThru News on BTR Today. Today I'm with Brian Fencil, our in-house cycling enthusiast and expert, and we're talking about cycling and specifically bike shares in cities around the country. So, Brian, I think I am completely fair in saying massive cycling enthusiast and expert because you've cycled over 5,000 miles in 3 tours.
Yeah, so I did a
including
tour across...
over the sea.
I didn't go across the sea. I did a plane, but I went from Spain to Iceland and did a tour in each country, and then I did a California to Utah tour. I'm a pretty big cycling nerd, definitely.
How did you get into cycling?
Basically, I was really into backpacking in college, and then I realized it was just a fancy way to go walking, and I was like, this is boring. I want to travel places.
Very fancy way.
Very fancy way to go walking. So then I realized somehow that bikes go places and that they're faster than feet, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I learned that I could travel by bike, and I just 6 months later was putting a bike on a plane and heading to Spain.
Wow, which is the natural
absolutely
series of events to go through, as I understand. Awesome. And now you bike to work every day. You've used Citi Bike a lot. How do you find the system?
The system can be great. There's a couple things I really love about it. Like if you're living outside of Manhattan, and especially in Jersey, and you take the bus.
And before you continue, I should actually just explain here. So Citi Bike is a bike sharing program in New York City. There are a lot of equivalent bike sharing programs around the country. And Citi Bike was started in May 2013 and is doing quite well in terms of popularity. It's had over 400,000 subscribers. Anyway, sorry, cut you off there.
Yeah.
Your experience of Citi Bike?
Both good and bad.
Okay.
So there's been a couple of times I used to live in Jersey. I'd take the bus in, get to Manhattan, and just go from Port Authority to my bus and then my bike, and then just go right to work and then just lock it up. Don't have to worry about it getting stolen. Don't have to worry about fixing it. Very convenient. But then there's also been a couple of times where I get to Port Authority and I have to go to 6 different stations, and none of the bikes there you can unlock. So you just walk up, you're like, oh, finally a bike, and no one's waiting in line for it, and you go to unlock, and it just gives you this really obnoxious noise, and nothing happens, and you're just like, so now what? And then you run around and try to find another one, or you end up taking a cab.
And you realize there was a reason why no one was waiting for that bike. But actually, Citi Bike has recently been having some problems with issues of functionality and everything. Overall, do you still think it's worth it? It's reliable enough as a system to use on that regular basis, or do you think it is better suited for just tourists and leisurely rides?
Citi Bike and bike share programs aren't really designed for tourists or for recreation. Although
that's how they make their money.
That's how Citi Bike makes its money. So they
kind of have to be designed a little bit for that.
They definitely tap into that market, but they're really an extension of the public transportation already in a city. That's how Citi Bike makes its money, is by charging a lot for day passes. Well, it's $10 for a day pass, but $100 for a year. So obviously going 10 days once is a year pass, so if you're local, you're just going to buy the year pass. They're making their money through tourists, which I don't think it's really working all that well for them, because I think it's mostly locals, commuters, that are using the program.
But New York is packed with tourists. I mean,
it's packed with tourists, right? But also, I don't really know. I think you kind of have to be more familiar and comfortable with the city to want to ride a bike there. I know plenty of locals who are terrified of riding a bike through Manhattan. So I'm not sure how many tourists are actually signing up and using bikes.
Well, I think also my understanding is as well, it's not that the business model is bad per se compared to other bike share programs. It's that the expectations of actually making a profit this early are actually completely unreasonable. So, for example, DC has Capital Bike Share, which is hailed as being very efficient. People love it. And it's about to make a profit this year for the first time, and then going forward it'll be apparently making a profit every year. But it was started in 2010 and it's funded by federal grants. So the fact that Citi Bike from the get-go was private company, I think sort of set completely different expectations.
It also puts hurdles in front of Citi Bike that other programs don't have. So Citi Bike is only for profit. They just started with a bunch of sponsorship money from Citibank and from MasterCard. They got a total of $47.5 million. They're looking for $10 million more, which is a scary figure. But other bike share programs have also ran in the red when they first started, and then they become profitable. So Citi Bike hasn't become profitable yet, but they also have things like the city hit them with a $1 million bill for lost revenue in parking, because they put the stations where people used to park. That pissed off a lot of commuters, that pissed off a lot of like businesses who, and also some people said it was an issue for fire trucks. I'm not really sure if fire trucks should be able to get away from it.
Yeah, especially with subway stations. I think
Subway stations,
getting in the way of fire
having
trucks.
EMTs running from like the car into the station. If there's bikes in the way, that's a problem. But anyway, Citi Bike got hit with this $1 million bill that other bike share programs haven't gotten hit with. So they do have other hurdles by being for profit. So.
We are going to take a break. We'll be right back after this quick excerpt from our latest episode of Live Studio featuring Pine Grove.
It was supposed to snow, and it did for a minute, but there's no distraction now.
We're back with Brian on our discussion of bike sharing and traveling around in an economically and environmentally friendly way in the city. So, Brian, you actually recently wrote an article which is about to go up on the BTR website on bike share programs and comparing ones around the world, right? So how do they compare? Are they all pretty much the same deal?
Well, it's actually, I thought that'd be the case. It'd be pretty easy because there's only a couple of companies in the, in the Americas, for example, that are making bikes. There's PBSC, which makes the bikes that are used in New York and in London and like 10 other cities. Then there's B-Cycle, which is used in Nashville and Colorado, a couple other cities, like 24 cities, I think, in the US. They're also in Chile. Anyway, so there's basically two styles of bikes.
They're also in Chile.
Yes, they have a bike share program in Chile. But anyway, basically, two companies making two different bikes. They both have similar ways of doing the same kind of thing. So they both have like the solar powered docking stations. They put them around. And when you're trying to see like rank a bike share on how well it works, is you're looking at number of stations, number of bikes per capita, the density of those stations, so how easy it is to go from where you are to get a bike to go to where you want to go and park your bike. You don't have to walk a long way. But even that is kind of hard to rank them, so you can't just say, this one has the most bikes and the most stations. It's like, okay, are they in the best locations? Are they most accessible? And then sometimes the municipality doesn't really want them to be for commuters. They're feeling like a different niche. So sometimes the bike shares are really used for like just getting like tourists around or something. So the aim of the city also is a variable. It's really hard to say who has the best, but there is a company called Go Bike in Europe who has a bike share program in 5 cities, I believe, where it's an electric powered bike. So it's electrical assist. You pedal and this little motor like pushes you faster, so you don't get all sweaty and tired when you get to work. But they're also
kind of defeating the purpose of the bike.
Yeah, kind of. But it's also e-bikes are kind of good because they encourage people to ride their bikes farther. So so some people are only going to take their bike out for like a tour around the block kind of thing. Just go a couple of blocks. But if they have an e-bike that makes them go like faster and easier, they're more likely to take the bike, like a couple of miles rather than a couple of blocks. So it encourages people to ride more. But also these bikes come with tablets. You can select multiple languages. You can go through by popular destinations. So if you're in Copenhagen, you can go see where all the popular tourist destinations are, put in your location, give GPS directions to get there. So it's super user friendly. And it's really great, and it's actually an incredibly cheap program because it does have the taxpayer subsidies. So I think the monthly fee is like 70 kroner, Danish kroner, which comes out to like a handful of US dollars. It's
a handful.
Handful. You just throw change at the machine and it'll take your money. It's great.
We should get those.
We should definitely get those. I think you might have to convince some people that's going to be worth it first. Maybe Citi Bike should make a bit more money
We'll
first.
focus on getting the Citi Bikes to just work.
Yes,
and then we can upgrade for the tablets.
And then we can match to what Copenhagen does.
Yeah. No. Well, that is really interesting. I didn't realize that there was so much to know. Well, in New York, there was quite a lot of controversy before Citi Bike came out with its own bike sharing program for a host of reasons, ranging from aesthetic reasons. I don't find the bikes now that they're around particularly offensive. I find the phenomenon of someone biking down the road, especially sort of at a leisurely pace, quite charming, especially in nice neighborhoods. But some people were very worried that it was going to be extremely garish.
Yeah. I did hear that that opinion on the news. It made headlines. Lots of people were afraid that the bikes were going to be horrendously ugly, but I don't really think that's the case. When bikes are broken in the station and like somebody comes by and like wraps caution tape around the whole system, that is pretty horrible. That does not look great.
It's not chic.
But overall, I think the bikes look nice. And there are like the bike share program in Paris, for example, has these very like swanky looking bikes. They look really cool. They could do.
I would not expect anything less.
Of course, they'd have to be
Thank God.
Yeah, like plastered in gold, something amazing. It's Paris, you gotta go all out. But like the bikes, I do like seeing the stations around. I don't think they're hard on the eye by any means. But there was also a lot of concern about safety. So.
Would you? Okay, so do you observe the rules of the road as a cyclist?
No.
Okay, so you're part of the problem, Brian.
I am part
Please
of the problem.
Explain the problem now.
Well, the problem is, for one, a bike moves differently than a car, but it's subject to like the similar rules. You're supposed to like stop,
and
full
you
stop
think
at a
that's
red.
silly?
I think yes. I think it's silly.
Have you been hit by a bike?
I
haven't either, but I'm sure it would suck.
It would suck. I would say though, I have a tendency to ride in the middle, like on roads with bike lanes, especially during rush hour. I have a tendency to ride in the middle with all the cars than I do riding in the bike lane because it's right next to pedestrians, and pedestrians are so unpredictable. They're walking on the sidewalk and someone steps in the way and they step right out into the bike lane without looking. I am convinced I am much more likely to hit a person than a car.
Wow.
Like in Manhattan, like
that's very selfless of you, Brian. You would rather get hit by the car than hit a person.
I think
Right,
but the
you've
odds are,
redeemed
I think it's less likely I'm going to hit a car and more likely I'm going to hit a person because the closest calls I've had so far in New York have been with pedestrians. They step out in front of you and they go, "Whoa!" and then they like get all mad. I've gotten flipped off for having someone stepped in front of me before. So
Wow.
yeah, interesting.
Have you ever hit a pedestrian?
Once, and it wasn't my fault. I swear. It might have been a little bit.
You're really losing credibility here quickly. I'm going to kick you off the show. No, I'm kidding. Although we do actually have to end that. I'm sure it wasn't your fault.
I
By
don't
the
think
way,
so.
I'm sure it was the pedestrian's fault.
I think it was.
All
It was
right.
right in front of a bar, and it was late at night. I'm going to blame them.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely that fault. All right. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Brian,
thanks for having me.
coming into the studio. We'll be right back in a moment after this quick excerpt from our most recent edition to Serious Business on BTR TV featuring Tancred.
I'm crazy, I've lost it, I'm gone. In dreams I can only hold you so close. I slipped the ring on your finger as I awoke.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein and this is Breakthrough News, your window into today. Be sure to check out breakthroughradio.com throughout the weekend for our continued Share Week coverage, including, as I mentioned earlier, Brian's own article comparing bike share programs around the world. That's it for the news today. Tell us what's breaking through your world on Twitter at Breakthrough Radio. I'm Charlotte Thun-Hohenstein and thank you for joining us.